Welcome to the Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast.
Welcome to the Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have my friend, Mr. Frank Chen. And Frank, this is the power of the masterminds.
For sure.
We met at the family a couple of years ago, I would say.
About 3 years ago.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
and I didn't know you were in Houston. I just found myself partying with you and Philip Vincent
That's right.
and Don Costa one night. And you're like, yeah, dude, I'm in Houston. I was like, really? I'm in Houston too. How come we haven't crossed paths, right? So
Yeah. I don't really typically. My clients are typically national. I don't really meet up people in person, even in Houston. But you text me your address. I was like, yeah, you're just a rock throw
10 minutes away.
Yeah, 10 minutes away. So I just
where are you at in town?
right off of Spring Branch near
Okay.
the Memorial Hospital.
That's just down the road.
Rock throw away, man.
Wow. So tell me about you, man. Who are you? Where do you come from?
Well, how I try to bridge the gap, because you guys are typically investor operators. I hang out on the information side,
Okay.
right? So most of my clients are people who have been doing investing for 1 year, 5 years, 15 years, and now they want to teach and inspire others. So they come out with courses, education, summits, events,
Right.
workshops. So I work directly with them to bring these ideas and products to market.
Got
so
it.
mainly online is where I hang out, a little bit of investing on the side part-time, but mainly consulting is what I do.
Okay, and are you from Houston?
Born and raised in Texas, started off in Dallas, went to college in University of Texas. Alabama, Texas
There
game
you
this
go.
weekend, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Then I moved here to Houston to support my wife. She's a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
If you guys ever need any sleep study work, you have sleep apnea,
Wow.
I do. She can help you out.
Wow.
So she drives to Leak City every day to go work, and
Wow, that's quite a drive.
it's quite a drive, and that's what we do here. I work from home, been doing it for the last 12 years, and have no idea what corporate America is like, and have never did an 8 to 5.
You never
outside
done a
of
corporate
college.
job.
You know, oddity jobs here. I worked at the Gap, fold clothes. I worked
Okay.
at Plucker's Wing Bar and as a server for 2
Okay.
years. Even ran their trivia.
When you were going to school or whatever.
Yeah, I was doing part-time to sell Cutco knives while I was in college.
Okay.
So, those little knives.
Hey, those are good. I got them.
Hey, man, did you buy it from your sister, your
I
cousin?
bought
or
it from
uncle?
my daughter.
That's
man.
how you do it. Hey, that's marketing 101. They
Yeah.
tell you there's no such thing as cold calling. Come here, sell our knives.
Yeah.
They give you a piece of paper to tell you write down 100 names of your closest friends and family. That's your list. So that's how they tell you not to cold call people, is to hit your friends and family up.
It's like network marketing, right? That's where you start.
And it's genius, because they're like, if you just sell 1-2 knives and you stop selling and you quit, go do something else, hey, we've made our money off of you.
And you learn the skill set.
There it is. It's a great product, very niche market. But yeah, I did a lot of these sales jobs here and there. Graduated with a nutrition degree, and definitely not using that. Doing sales, marketing.
Really? So you went to college for a nutrition degree?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why I always tell people, like, man, my wife and I always debate, is college where you need to go, or do you want to just hustle, at 18 and 19? To my opinion, it all comes down to your outcome. If you make the same and you're happy and you're not a doctor, well, that's okay. You're happy and you make the same kind of money. Good life.
Good deal. So so what year did you come to Houston?
Oh man, that's probably like 6 years ago.
Man, I just went to Dallas last week, and I was like, if I'm moving out of Houston next year, but
Okay.
I was like, man, Dallas is nicer than Houston. Like,
Is that where you're moving?
no, I'm not moving to Dallas. I'm going to Florida, but
Oh.
but I was like, hey, like if I had to choose a city again,
Yeah.
I'll probably go to Dallas as opposed to Houston, or maybe Austin. But Houston is kind of like, I don't know. I think Dallas is prettier. Like they got newer buildings going up.
Yeah.
They got new development going up all over the place.
Yeah.
We went to I went to the $1 Million Meeting with Mike Hembright,
Yeah.
and he did this VIP dinner at it was like at a food center, but they had a lot of little restaurants
Stalls, yeah.
and bars, and it was actually pretty nice. And we don't have any of that stuff here. I'm like, man, this is much nicer than what we have in Houston. And I'm not knocking down Houston by any means. The Houston's got its good things, right? And it was good for me for many years. But I'm looking at all these other cities that are kind of like popping. Not that Dallas hasn't popped, but it's two big cities in Texas, right? Houston is bigger than Dallas, supposedly. I'm like, I was telling Caesar, I was like, man, this city is so much nicer than Houston for some reason, or it looks that way.
You say that it's interesting. You were just out there talking before this call or this podcast. You're reading energies with your team, and I think it applies to cities as well. Like Houston has a great energy, but if you're looking for something more lively, exciting, I don't think that's what Houston is,
no,
right?
It's not.
If you talk about nightlife, that's more Dallas.
Yeah.
Houston's more like you come here for culture, you come here for food, community. It's great.
Oh, it's definitely a food city.
Yeah, great food,
100%.
great people. There's, I think, more restaurants and ethnicities per capita compared to the rest of the country.
Is it number one? I don't know about Miami, but Houston could be number one. LA, Miami are right. Oh, they're all right.
Top three for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, man, where in Florida are you going?
Probably Miami.
Okay.
It's like,
night and day compared to Houston.
I like Tampa. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've been going to Tampa now for a few years. But my wife has, her friends are in Miami, not in Tampa. So moving to Tampa is like, she's going to have to build new friends and all that. And the schools that we want for the kids, we want bilingual, Spanish and English.
Okay.
So not that many Spanish bilingual schools. Believe it or not, Texas is much better on education when it comes to education for kids, for children.
Did not know that.
Yes.
All right.
Because we've been doing the homework, and I'm like, hey, because I even thought about Orlando. I said, okay, Orlando, Tampa, let's find a bilingual school for the kids. Guess what? We're like, Florida's got more bilingual people than anyone in the country, pretty much.
Yeah.
And we can't find them. And there's some of them, but there's not that many like here in Texas. So so we narrowed it down to Doral, which is in Miami, and my father lives there, and so I do have family there. So it kind of like I'm gravitating towards spending time with my family. I've been away for 22 years now, so at some point you're like, maybe I go back to hang out with my parents and my aunts and uncles and.
Yeah, I think it speaks to kind of like how you've kind of positioned your business. We were just talking about automation, and creating a business that serves your life, and not the other way around, right? We talk about entrepreneurship. One of the two goals people usually strive for, either money or a lifestyle. I would like to introduce the third one, which is like happiness. I think there's a mixture of these three. I think you moving down back to be closer to family is going to fill another area of your life that you probably aren't getting here.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm looking for right now. When I moved to Houston, I was in the Navy and I was coming to do oil field. So that's oil field capital of the world, right?
Why not? Right?
So I didn't even like Houston, man. Every time I came here, I was like, oh man, this city's flat, all kind of like gray, Now the Woodlands was pretty, but other than the Woodlands, like Katy wasn't really developed like it is now. That's where I live. And I knew that I had to come here because this is where money was, right? I did corporate for 10 years in the oil and gas business, and that's why I'm here. But other than work, there was no purpose for me to be here. You follow me? And as soon as I became a full-time entrepreneur, I started filling that void. Like, hold on a second, I can do this whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
Why am I here? Why am I away from my family and my daughter? My daughter actually lives in Florida.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I have a 24-year-old daughter. She's going to end up going to California at some point. She's into...
One goes to the other,
yeah,
but hey.
Exactly. Well, she's into movies, music and all that. She's got a degree in music, so...
Great place to be.
Exactly. So she's looking for that. But yeah, you're right, man. I now that I believe my purpose is finished here in Houston.
That's good,
Although
man.
I still have some loose ends that I gotta finish tying up, and once those are tied up, I can move. But it's gonna happen next year already. We got a date and everything planned. So pick the school that we're gonna apply for, so the kids can get in. And I want the beach. That's what I like, the beach.
Yeah.
I've been considering also Central America, Mexico, and also South America and Colombia. Because honestly, Frank, here, like in Houston, you can live very well with maybe 10 grand. Very well. A nice house, good cars.
We're talking about per month, correct?
Per month, yeah. Per month.
Not per year.
No, per month.
Yeah,
right? And most people probably that are on the higher tax bracket, it takes more than that. In Miami, not so much. Okay, it's a lot more
It's
expensive.
flashy out there.
It's very flashy. No, and it's not only that, man. The real estate prices are high.
Yeah, probably double this, double
They're
here.
double here now. The difference here is that our taxes are triple.
I feel that. I feel that
They're
pain.
triple. So I'll give you an example. If you have a $500,000 home here, which they don't really exist anymore, you know, but if you have one of those, then you're paying somewhere around $15K a year or so. In Miami, you're only paying 1%, which is $5K.
Oh wow.
So now you can buy a $1.5 million home and pay the same amount of taxes. It's just that, you know, the math is a little different.
You're. I'm curious. What do you think is better? You have being able to buy a 1 point. Well, of course, it depends on the market.
Well,
But
yeah.
1.5 at 1%
That's
tax.
better.
It's better than
Yeah.
5. And
Yeah, because most of, like, if you have a mortgage, that's if you have a mortgage, right? If you have a mortgage, your payment is going towards the house. It's not going to taxes.
right.
But if you have a mortgage here, and I'll give you an example. I had a $500,000 home in Katy, and my payment was $5K a month. But guess what? Out of the $5K, half of it was going to taxes.
Right.
So I'd rather put $5K towards the other one, which is actually going to principal or
Makes sense now.
You
Okay.
see?
I'll see you in Miami in a few years.
pretty
then.
soon.
Right.
So tell me, man, like, okay, so you did odd jobs, right? Here and
Yep.
there, you know, server, Gap.
Yeah. Which,
What happened after that?
by the way, I think if anybody who's listening to this who has kids, if they're ever like at home playing Fortnite on the doing something in their college years, I think the best job that really launches the entrepreneur mindset is a service-based job, right?
Yes.
When you're serving other people, these are nurses, teachers, right? It's a hard job, but I think early on, being a server at a restaurant at a hourly wage, I was making $2.13 an hour.
Wow.
Right? It blew my mind. I think I left my job one day where I left making $25 after working a 10-hour shift.
Wow.
Very humbling experience, but it teaches you that, at the end of the day, no matter how much you make, you better give it all your all, right? It's not like
Absolutely.
right. So it's not about you can't get upset with your table if they don't take care of you. It's like no, you got to provide a level of service. I think that bleeds and translates into just how you attack life, right?
Yeah, not only that, man. Like, I firmly believe, like, if you went to work at McDonald's, for instance, when you're working at McDonald's, you're not learning only how to serve people. You're learning systems and processes.
Oh yeah. Don't have your blinders on, right? Some people are like, yeah, you're flipping burgers. And people are like, well, what do you do?
But the burger had to be flipped a certain way, and you put it on the patty a certain way, and after the patty and it goes to another station, and it all goes boom, boom, and guess what? That was a system and a process that's being followed in every McDonald's in the nation.
Right.
People are learning that, but they're not understanding that they're learning that because they're thinking they're just serving or they're cooking or whatever, right?
Right.
Subconsciously they're picking it up, but not consciously. So you're right. My daughter, she worked in a lot of different places.
Good for her.
And she's done all kinds of things. But now she's focusing more on her music stuff and she's gonna go be an attorney now. She wants to be an attorney for artists and things like that. So
We don't talk too much about this because it could be another rabbit hole. But yeah, the NFTs, how artists are kind of claiming back their power in the music industry, purely because of all these legal issues with these label companies. So that's awesome that she's doing that. There's definitely a future in this business for
absolutely.
her.
I mean, that industry is not controlled by the labels anymore.
Yeah, it's quickly shifting.
It's controlled by the artists, and when the artists they know they have something solid,
Yeah.
they're like, hold on a second, I don't need to go sell my soul to these people. They need to come buy my product now, which is turning the tables, man. I've seen like guys like Daddy Yankee, for instance, like the reggaeton artist, right? Yeah, he got like $100 million from Universal, but guess what? He owns all his rights. He owns all his things. Like, how do you do this? Like, well, because they educated themselves on how to be entrepreneurs in the music industry. They're not just artists.
Yeah.
These are real serious business people now. Bad Bunny just came last week to Houston. I went to a concert. I just found out he's making $3.3 million per concert.
Wow.
And he did 2 in Houston on the weekend, and he's probably today or yesterday in San Antonio. So, like, how many of these concerts are these guys doing a year? If you do 100 concerts, guess what? You just made $33 million.
Yeah.
that didn't happen before, man.
Yeah, it's, you know, I can loop all of the things that we're talking about together right here. Right? You asked me, what did I transition myself into? I think my mind's always used in a unique way of like just looking for opportunity, right? You talk about Bad Bunny, you talk about these guys, systems and processes. I truly believe it takes a certain mindset to ultimately get to that point, right? People who are kind of a slave to the 8 to 5, who are employee mentalities, I think they're just that barrier, that thick glass that's very hard for their minds to push through. Like, hey, just on the other side of this hard work with your own passion and ideas, you really can create a better life for yourself, right? That's why a lot of these artists, you know, even fighters who have come back from like crazy backgrounds, you know, crazy poor, so can rise from the ashes and become some of the richest, most influential people in the world.
Yeah.
While those who have been given everything squander it away, and because they don't understand the value of what they have, right? So, I know, but yeah, to your point, what I did before kind of getting into this was I was looking for a job. Did this on Craigslist, just like everybody else out there who's having a really hard time finding a job. Some guy took a chance on me. His name was Tim Randall. Where I am today is largely due to him. He's actually my first mentor too.
Tim, where is he at? He's in Austin, right?
He's in Austin.
Yes.
He started this online business as a side hobby, then grew it into like an income producing, you know, he was the first person to teach me it's not all about money. He could have taken this into a $2, $3, $4 million business probably 5 years ago. He was really happy with where it was because it supplied his life, his lifestyle, lived the house that he wanted, the cars that he wanted. Very simple life. But he taught me everything that I needed to know along the way.
Okay.
Great mentor. You're just saying this too with Caesar, your COO, your team in Venezuela. You know, when you pour into your people and you pour into your team, man, it pays back.
It pays back.
Massive dividends, right? But through that, started to do consulting, and just like our McDonald's reference, I learned how to get sticky in people's businesses. So I wasn't just, any job that you start, you're given a checklist of things to do, right? You can do them very well, or you can kind of just stay under the radar. But if you excel, you can get promotions and get, you know, become a manager. That's kind of how I started. But I also started learning about sales, operations, systems, processes, you know, accounting. I learned all aspects of the business, which ultimately fed me into this consulting business I have now. I don't know just one thing, I know a lot of things.
Right.
So that's really helped me with just becoming more valuable in my own business.
All right, so in a nutshell,
Yeah.
what is it that you do today? Like, what can we say? When I mention your name, Frank, I say, okay, Frank does X, right?
Sure.
What is that?
I give people a crystal clear blueprint from taking an idea or a product to achieve an end result. So whether it's, hey, I want to take my wholesaling, hey, I have a great wholesaling business, do 5 to 10 deals a year. I use a very unique strategy to get my leads, you know, and people, you've heard of reverse wholesaling, wholetailing, novation.
Right.
It's, you know, different lipstick on the same pretty
That's
girl,
it.
right? I show them the exact program, software, people they could potentially work with. So I kind of help you build the systems out of the gate, kind of how you show people on the real estate side, right? Less mistakes, less costly, you know, investments before proof of concept.
Got it.
Right? But mainly on the info side. So ideas, education, that's where Frank comes in.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
For you, it's like investor into operations, acquisition.
Right.
That's where you know, Ricardo comes in.
Very similar.
Right.
Okay, so what are, like, give me some perfect examples on your client. What's your client looking for? Like,
Sure.
let's say some guy is wants to sell more texting platform. I have a texting platform, right?
Yeah, great.
And I'm going the affiliate route. I'm not going,
Yeah.
like, I don't want to, like, I'd rather pay other people and get it to completely multiply.
Sure.
So if I said, hey, Frank, how can I grow this business on the texting side? What would you like? How would that be the approach?
Absolutely. So you're a software as a service, right?
Yeah.
You're a SaaS company.
Right.
So you're kind of banking off of two things, which is continuity, right? And then you're also building off the text platform where every time someone's texting something, there's some margins there.
Right.
Safe to say, right?
That's correct.
You have your traditional ways of generating new leads is paid advertising. Still a great medium, right? It's a variable cost. Can't ignore it. And the other way, when people say affiliates, I've learned very recently from Robert Allen, it was like, what does that even mean? So you're selling, like, are you like Amazon or no? How you would naturally grow your business is the one-to-many model, right?
That's
You're
it.
not trying to sell your service to someone who's learning about investing, because they're not going to send a lot of text messages out, right?
No.
Or if they did, they're not converting those leads, or quickly going to stop using
They're
it.
gonna stop
So
using
your ideal customer is someone who is doing
Long-term.
deals long term, right? Multiple deals, scaling their business, building a brand. Who do you think typically has those types of audiences?
Yeah, wholesalers, real estate,
Right.
gurus and
Gurus and influencers, RIA clubs. So I always challenge my clients to look for like the one-to-many groups. So find that one influencer who's on the up and up, who hasn't had that attachment to a software yet.
Right.
Or maybe they're disappointed with their current platform.
Right.
There's a level of sales and business development here.
got it.
But you only need a handful of these to really generate an extra 50 to 75 new users of your platform.
Absolutely.
Right? At the end of the year, that's over close to 1,000 new users.
That's right.
And if you can focus on retention, well, that's the name of your game. That's SaaS, right?
Yeah.
It's all about retention. Do your job and they'll stick with you. So that's my advice to most people with SaaS companies is really start talking to the influencers. People who have masterminds, coaching programs, workshops, where they're spending $25,000, $50,000 a month on advertising with brand new leads. They can just make it very incentivized for them to continue to funnel their traffic to your platform.
Correct.
Because you're not the only text platform out there.
No, there's a bunch of other
Right.
ones that are good.
Good, but do we invest in the software, or do we invest into the culture and the business and how they serve and take care of their clients, right?
Right.
So I think you're all about culture and making sure people who invest with you are taken care of.
Correct.
So there's a level of value there compared to a big box text message platform. I'd rather work with Ricardo's because
That's right.
I can actually reach out to Ricardo, not
Yes.
the CEO of this big company here, where I'm just a number.
We don't even know who the guy is.
Exactly. So
Good deal. So I've been told you're the king of JVs, right? Like making connections and
Sure.
synergies happen. At what point did you learn that making connections was a powerful tool that was gonna propel a lot of businesses for not only you but for many other people?
to simplify, our mutual friend Matt Andrews,
Right.
He's doing this at a very high level,
Yeah.
working with like under hedge funds, big VCs, people who are putting tens of hundreds of millions of dollars behind certain projects, and he's figured out ways. Tom Kroll too,
Yeah.
right? Equity for coaching, equity for consulting. All that was telling me is that there's power in relationships, right? Depending on how or what industry you're in, how long you've been doing it, if you've quietly been building up a great reputation. My good friend Ron Phillips, the owner of RP Capital, great turnkey business. He coined the term reputation capital, right? And that's all related to how you're perceived among your peers, your community, and how are you able to leverage these relationships. So for you, like wholesalers, you have a buyer's list.
Yeah.
Those are all based on relationships. So it's, I think my very first time at Real Estate Educator, I sold a software to Lee Arnold Systems. You know Lee Arnold. The
Yes.
current software they're using was actually, I brokered that deal with a text platform. I can't remember what it was called. Investor Fuel, I think it was. Anyways, brokered them together. They bought it. I made a cool $15K on that deal, and all I did was just connect two people. I was like, holy crap. I spent about 30 minutes on this, jumped on a team call, and just kind of was a fly on the wall, and they paid me $15K. Brokered the deal, right? Kind of like wholesale fees, assignment fees.
Yeah, that's an assignment.
Yeah. So there's a larger scale for like tech. Like if I was a partner with your software company, I was like, hey, every new influencer that I bring in, I just want 10% of all of their client business, right? And I'll just keep bringing people in. Your margins are probably 20, 30%, but I didn't have these 100 people before Frank per month.
Right.
Here you go, buddy. Right? So I figure out ways to add value to, the clients I work with and the partnerships that can be mutually beneficial. We find a starting point, and then we go deeper into the operations side. So for you, text is great. Now, how do we figure out ways to connect your buyers, your deals to their networks, and now start doing some more JVs on the investing side?
Right.
Right.
And with Robert Allen, do you do a one-on-one with him, or it was just being exposed to him?
Dude, it was at our mastermind. So
Oh,
he was
right.
just walking around, and I had a chance to, pull him aside and introduce myself, pick my brain, and that one 30-second bit
Yeah.
of advice
Bingo.
completely changed the way I started assuming what people thought about affiliate marketing. I've been doing this for so long. You have assumptions like, oh yeah, like everybody knows this stuff. Very few people understand this. Is what I've learned, thanks to Robert. So
Yeah.
shout out to Robert Allen.
Well, Robert Allen, I love Robert, man. He came to my last event.
Nice.
In June, and he's coming to the one in February again. And he's my mentor one-on-one right now. He's been mentoring me for about 5 months now, maybe, something like that. We connect every Tuesday at 12.
That's awesome, man.
And man, this man, he's helping me how to write my book, right? So he's like, Ricardo, you got a book in you. And I'm like, I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I know it takes a lot to put a book together.
Yeah, a good book.
A good book,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just don't have the time because my focus was somewhere else. I was rebuilding my texting platform,
Oh, yeah.
building this VA company, and all these things, and that's my main bread and butter. And to me, write a book is like a shiny object. But at the same time, we connected on a Zoom call, and I was closed. Like I didn't want to open up to like I want to go write a book right now. But then I'm thinking, man, this is a man that's got years and years and years of experience in our industry.
Yeah.
That's respected by all of us, and that was a pioneer in what we're doing today. He wants me to write a book, but I think along the way I might pick up other things from him.
Oh yeah.
Oh, buddy, like, to me, I don't even connect with him about the book anymore. I mean, we did the outline, the whole thing, but now we're talking other things. Affiliate, how can we take this to Europe? How can we do this there? And because he's done it, it's like, yeah, you can do it, but focus like this. And so, man, that's probably the best money I've ever invested in a mentor, to be honest with you, Frank.
And I think it's fascinating, and a lot of your listeners and the people that you kind of try to impact in the biggest way is a lot of these guys are at the starting point of their journey.
Yes.
Right? We've been there, and I know you've
Absolutely.
been there multiple times.
Absolutely.
You've reset, had to rebuild it again. I feel, and maybe just as we get older, and I was talking to my mastermind the other day, I was like, I just have less patience with getting to my goals, right? And it's interesting when we talk to certain individuals how passionate they're like, oh, I want this, I want that, a big house, big car, I want to make 6 figures, I want to do that. But once the work starts, it kind of that fizzles away. But being surrounded by people like Robert Allen, people with strong mindset, who have achieved, their first level of greatness and now are continuing to roll that into other areas of greatness, you start borrowing that confidence.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You're like, man, like you said, if they can do it, I can do it. So
And he had a bunch of setbacks. A bunch.
right.
And I had my own setbacks. I mean, what you heard earlier wasn't nothing compared to what I lost after Harvey, right? So
Crazy, man.
So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna hire him. Like, I'll start the book, and I'll see how that goes. But while we were writing this book, he started inquiring because he wants to really extract everything from you to put it on the book.
Yeah.
So he starts asking me about my VA company, and like, okay, Ricardo, how many people you got on your team? And I was like, well, we're up to 80. He's like, 80? I didn't know you had 80 employees. And I was like, oh, we're probably going to get to 150 by the end of the year. But to me, it's not a big deal because I've scaled companies before. And I had in one company where I was an employee, I had 500 employees. So I'm used to those numbers.
Interesting.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So actually, the one thing is when I went on corporate America in the oil and gas business, I started putting valves together, right? $12 an hour, working from 4 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then in between 3 and 7, I will go to a lab they had to study the equipment, how to install the equipment in the bottom of the seafloor, and do all these cool things that you see that oil rigs do offshore.
Gotcha.
And then I went from that to offshore. And now I'm offshore, I'm making a little bit more money, but I'm gone. And like, no Christmas, New Year's, forget that. That does not exist.
Yikes, yeah.
And I did that for quite a while. But I was more trying to do the money thing other than my freedom. I didn't, because I was in the Navy before, so there was no freedom and money. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of the two. So now I had, at least I had money, but I had money coming in because I had a good job, and it was a 6-figure job. Somewhere along the lines, I started making 150 grand or whatever. But by the time I left the oil and gas business industry, I was making $260,000 a year, and I was a director of a big operation where I had 500 employees. And that job, that particular job, what it gave me was the ability to think in big numbers, because I was handling millions of dollars. So my P&L was $120 million a year.
Wow.
I picked it up when it was 70, and we took it to like 120. And by the way, I'm an employee, I'm not the owner of the company, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, I was like, man, if I was the owner of this thing, how much of that money would be mine?
Yeah.
Right? But I started handling large groups of people, 500 people. Now, I didn't manage 500 people. I managed 4 that in terms managed maybe another 40 that managed these 500.
Yeah.
So all those numbers, handling large contracts, doing big expenditures, handling large groups of people, that prepared me to what we're scaling today, and what we scaled in the past that didn't make it. But it was that exposure. So I'm grateful for my what do you call it, my corporate career.
Yeah.
Because it got me to where I am now. I'm not a corporate hater, by the way. I tell people, you got a job, you make good money, man, milk it, put some properties away, put some money aside. Eventually, if you get the itch to become an entrepreneur, this is not for everybody.
Oh no.
Right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, like you see it, people lose their minds, and sometimes you got more month at the end of your money because payroll comes in or whatever, or you didn't get the sales that you were supposed to. But yeah, watching people like Robert and many other of the players that we have in the family, you're like, man, that guy's just on another level. How can I get there?
I think, like you said, mediocrity, complacency is just something that doesn't fit into my life very often. I think, obviously how your upbringing is, what you're seeing as, samples of what you want to follow in life, hardworking people. If you like nice cars and that's your thing, awesome. Being present as a father, if that's important. So you kind of just try to model yourself after those who have either have the life you have, or have some level of what you're trying to achieve. Right. And I guess I just don't know how people get there without help. Right.
Oh no, you need help.
Right. I'm sure some, the needle in the haystack person can get there, just due to sheer will and just being really smart. But man, when they say it takes a village to take care of a kid, it takes a village to grow a business. I've learned more in the last 2-3 years of the power of a team than I have in the 12 years I've done this business.
Do you have a team in place?
I have a very simple team. Like when I tell people, like, my entrepreneurial journey is I have high margins, low cost, no overhead.
Love it.
Right. I don't want to scale a business to 5 or 10 million. That's not my goal.
Yeah.
I'm happy with $1 million because my margins
you're high,
are
so
very good.
No, I tell people all the time, it's like, because it's somewhere in 16, 17, I made 4 million.
Yeah.
But I didn't keep 4 million. I kept maybe a percentage, and it wasn't very high because of the overhead we had, and it was a lot of people intensive and all that, right? But today, the way I run the business, I don't have to make 4 million to make good money.
Yeah.
If I make $1 million, I'm actually making very good money because my overhead is completely different than what it was in the past. That's why I was telling you earlier, this office is going to disappear because I don't need it anymore.
Good for you, man.
I don't have a sales floor here anymore. This is the only reason I'm here right now is because I have a contract and I don't want to break it. So I'm like, you know what? I'll finish the contract. I'm going to repurpose all the rooms. So we have a studio here, another one there. So we're recording different areas. We have the gym in the middle so we can get fit because I need to work on going from a 36-pack to a 6-pack. But eventually I'm just going to put all these things in a box and just go rent an Airbnb. If we're going to shoot for a day, get the Airbnb, get everybody there. We shoot, we record, boom, 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 done, we're out. So, and I don't need to have a recurring overhead for producing this content, which is something I will continue to do.
Yeah.
I love this. I think we're giving back when we do this because for the most part, 99% of the time we're telling our secrets to people so they can go and be successful.
Yes, shortcut it for them. And I gotta say this, Ricardo, like you said, we've met 2 or 3 years ago, only recently, just through the grapevine. A lot of praise has come your way just through mutual friends. And that's kind of how I, quietly learn about people I've never met before. But I gotta tell you this, man. There's 2 things that I've noticed that you're really good at. One, you're really good at taking big things and make them feel smaller in a good way. Like, running an 80-person team, you're like, oh yeah, Minnesota, I got my operations guy. You make it so simple when the average person just gets so overwhelmed by it, right?
80 people, no, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. And then the second thing too is your hustle, bro. I think, you have your hands in a lot of different things. What's also cool is that each of these things have their own little hands that are reaching out for opportunities.
Yes.
Like your VA company, you started it off with using it in your own business. You're like, well, how do I leverage this team where other people can use it? And you created a new revenue stream that way. Same with your sales floor. You created partnerships.
Yeah.
That's the true spirit of an entrepreneur, is that you hear one opportunity, it's like, how do I turn this into 2, 3, 4 more opportunities?
Believe it or not, Frank, I always had that spirit. But unfortunately, I wasn't disciplined enough when I was younger.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And I got this spirit from my dad, because my dad is an entrepreneur. He's in the insurance world. He's the best sales guy I've ever met in my life.
My mom's this way.
Well, he sells me everything. Right? He's probably calling me right now for a new policy that just came out. Right? So I'm his biggest fan, and I wanted to be like my dad growing up.
Very cool.
But I started going through the wrong path. A lot of drinking in Venezuela. Man, you go to the liquor store, you buy alcohol, and you're done. Like there's no show me your ID or anything like that. They just want to sell product, right? So I started drinking a lot when I was young, and of course I drove him crazy and my mom crazy and everybody around me. And so I never developed discipline until I joined the military. So I was very smart, but no discipline whatsoever.
Right.
Procrastination ruled my life. I mean, I just didn't care. And I thought, I knew it all, or I was better than anybody else, or whatever. And when I got in the Navy, that kind of leveled down the playing field real good. Because I don't say I come from a poor family or anything like that. We were middle high class. If so, I went to a private school, so it wasn't. I don't have the rags to riches story. I actually had everything. Like my dad would say, "Hey man, do you want to go and which college do you want to go to?" And I was like, "College, Dad? I don't think so. That's not for me." Like I didn't want to go to college at all.
Wow.
And that's why me and him started doing this. And so I worked for my dad for a very long time until one day I just said, "Man, the hell with this, I'm out." And it's because he was pressuring me to go to school, and I didn't want to go to school. But to your comment, I had a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't have the consistency and the responsibility. I was very responsible because I would go out drinking every freaking day, and not get up on time to go to work. The simple things, And then I learned that in the military, and now I'm in the military with all different people of social, like the guy that came from the hood, and the guy that came from a military family that they had all the means in the world to put a kid or whatever. So I started seeing all these different worlds that I was never exposed to, and I said, man, you know what? I'm gonna make the best out of it, and I got my discipline there, and then I grew a lot of character as well.
Yeah.
That's not for everybody either. Right? And then I went into the oil and gas business, and there is where I picked up these large numbers and the scaling things, and everything is millions of dollars.
Oh yeah.
So it becomes your language. It's like in our world. At the family, you're always hearing, "Oh, I got a $10 million business. I got a $5 million business. I make $1 million." So everything is like 6 figures. Oh my God! Like that's it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
You must be new in the group. Yeah. Like you must be the new guy.
That came to my first my big first aha moment. I was talking to my brother. He's got his master's degree. He worked at startup companies. He's in management at these big companies. Gets paid very well, and he came to the family reunion with me. I think it was last year. The one with Vanilla Ice. That was an awesome one, by the way.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
And he was like, and I know how much he makes, and I'm just pointing around. He's like, "Oh yeah, that guy did about 15 mil. He's probably his margins are probably he probably did 2-3 mil net. This and that." And he's like, "Oh, like he felt like the smallest, most broke guy in the room." But that's perspective. Like in his world, he's executive. He's doing well, paying, getting paid very well.
He's at the top of the ladder.
Top of the food chain there. But in a room of just like hungry entrepreneurs, he was the smallest fish in the largest ocean.
I can relate to him because I used to be that guy in corporate. Now, I'll tell you what, in corporate, what happens is, like on my case, you got status.
There's a hierarchy.
There's a yes,
yeah, right?
So okay, I'm the vice president of.
The longer the name, the more important you are, right?
Oh yeah, and where the office is. If your office is in a corner with a view, I mean, there's all these perks that come with having a status, right? And for a while, I ate that up because I was like, oh, I'm the global product manager now of this 500 employee. I make $120 million a year for this company, and your head starts growing, dude. And
yeah.
But then that must have been a very humbling experience for your brother, because if I would have been put in a room like the family back then, I would have felt very uncomfortable.
It's humbling.
Yeah.
It's very humbling.
Because I would have been like, well, I know I live in a nice house, but those guys can afford my house.
They just bought a plane, so they
just bought a plane.
So don't have to pay taxes.
What is this?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Right. What is this?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm gonna start thinking like that now, right? That's just a fascinating world. That's one of the things I love about what I do, is trying to bridge these two worlds together.
Right.
Corporate America, we do a lot of things in our business that corporate America is. There's a lot less red tape.
Right.
People, we work for ourselves. We can make quick decisions.
Right.
That's really the biggest difference. But to your point, the titles. Someone said this perfectly. Like, oh, Frank, what are you? Like, I'm the CEO of my business. It's like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's just a title. But if you're lazy, you're not motivational, you don't breathe culture into your people, you're not a CEO. That's just a title you gave yourself.
I don't even like that title, man. Like, in my opinion, the life of an entrepreneur goes from novice, number one.
Yep.
You're learning, you don't know much. Okay, you're the new guy. But you're like, maybe I learn how to do this wholesaling thing, or the fix and flip, or the affiliate world, right? But you're a novice, like you're learning. Then from a novice, you learn enough to become a hustler. And now you're hustling. You're doing deals, you start making some money.
Yeah.
But you're like working for money. Like you're still trading your time and efforts and everything for money.
Perfectly said.
And then you go from a hustler to a manager. You graduate. Like, okay, now I'm a manager. I got a few people here that I'm puppeteering.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm managing these guys, but I'm still pretty much in the trenches with them.
Sure.
Closing deals, selling deals, whatever. But then you go from a manager to the CEO. The CEO now has multiple managers with multiple closers. Hustlers with multiple novices that are coming up in the business.
Yeah.
But then there's one more step, which is the chairman.
Yeah.
Right? But that comes from the corporate world. Now the chairman is the guy that has a board of directors, and they decide when the CEO, whether he continues or not, or he gets fired or not. And he just says, this is what we need to do next year. Very short, no big vision or whatever. This is where we're going. But that chairman is probably the head of multiple businesses. And that to me is the evolution of an entrepreneur.
I agree with you 100% there, right? I think a lot of the guys that I've seen in our space graduate, they're using this term AUMs, right? Assets under management.
Yeah.
That's a board, that's a president or like a chairman role, right? Where you're managing a portfolio of businesses, and each of these businesses has like a person that runs it, right? That's the dream. That's the dream.
Not for everybody, because, do you really want to handle all of that? Like, it gets to a point to where it's cool.
Yeah.
Because he buys you a lot of good toys, and he buys you probably the best lifestyle that you can afford. You can probably go to the best hotels and eat the best at the best restaurants.
Yeah.
Maybe you have some mates at home that do everything for you, but that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, if I had to whittle it down, it almost feels like to take on this role, it's about like being able to handle the responsibility.
Right.
But I don't feel like it's any harder to take that job on than the person who's cleaning the toilets in a 100-story building.
To me, it's harder to clean the toilet.
So much harder.
To me, it's
right?
harder.
So I'd rather manage 7 teams and 7 managers who are competent than clean 1,000 toilets.
To me, so somebody explained this to me. I cannot remember who it was, but they told me, so Ricardo, or maybe I heard a speaker talk about this. So Ricardo, it's not about hard work. It's not. Because if people were rewarded by working hard, then people in McDonald's should get paid a lot more money. Because they're standing up all day.
And they eat, burning themselves on oil. I got you, man.
Now the people at the farm that's picking tomatoes, which is mostly immigrants, right?
Yeah.
That's hard work.
In the hot sun, super hard work.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, hold on, but hard work is needed. No questions asked. So that's just one element. But then, how do you become smart about your work? Right? So I learned that a long time ago, and even though I was a hard worker in the Navy, and then I was a hard worker in the oil and gas, that's where I started getting smart. I was like, okay, because I was exposed to it.
Yeah.
That translated into what we do today, and that's what we've been able to grow. And I don't touch anything that cannot grow. Like I'm like, if this thing I cannot scale it, then I want no attention to that, because otherwise I'm going to become a prisoner of that one thing. And in going back to the family in that group, we get to see so many of those rock stars, right? Because everybody in that group is a rock star. I mean, you're one of them. Philip is another one. Like all the guys that we mastermind with, they're all good in their own lane. But Frank, what is next for you, man? Like, what's in the future for you? Like, if I had to ask you, hey Frank, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like.
Yeah, man. Thanks to one of my groups, you've heard of Leadership Boardroom. I've gotten crystal clear with my life and business vision.
Oh yeah, with Sean McCluskey, man.
Yeah, Sean McCluskey.
I love that guy.
This is not an exercise you've ever done. It's just really just like, it's dare to dream. It's like being an Imagineer of your life. I think, I don't, like I said, I don't want to grow something super huge. I think I'm fully capable, have the resources, the Rolodex. Nah, man, where I see myself in 5 or 10 years is I'm going to be a father of 2. I'm going to be traveling a lot throughout the year. I'll be running my business remotely. It's going to provide a very comfortable lifestyle to where my family has no worries about income, money. My kids don't have to worry about it, but they're going to learn all the principles of how we got here so they can keep our wealth going. I don't talk too much about where my business is. What I've learned is I know how to make money. That's what my entrepreneurial journey has taught me is if everything got burned down tomorrow, I told my wife this, like, I don't feel stressed if that happened. I got plenty of money in the bank. I follow profit first, so I got money coming out every month. Taxes are taken care of. 30%, right? So when you don't have these type of things to worry about, your future becomes a lot less stressful.
Yes.
So I don't.
You don't live in anxiety anymore.
I'm not here today because I made this decision this year. This has been about a 3 or 4 year journey. When you talked about P&Ls, didn't even know what that was when I started my business, right? So I've done a lot of this groundwork. I'm still paying for mentors. I got a big 25K one I'm about to throw out because I'm trying to go from triple my business in the next 12 months. Right? So when you talk about 5 years, I plan on retiring at 45, not quit working, but no longer have to worry about money. I'm 38 this year, 7 years. And this is what I was...
Dude, and the craziest thing is, in 1 year, things can go exponentially so large that it may not even take you until you're 45.
And this is how I'll finish this answer here is, anybody who feels like they don't have like the time left, right? We get exponentially smarter as we get older. Exponentially smarter. And I always tell people who are just now turning 30 or 35 or 40 is just look back at the last 5 or 10 years. Like, look at what you've accomplished. There is no possible way, unless you're just a lazy, POS, where you're going to do the exact same within the next 5 or 10 years. Like, if you repeat what you did the last 10, you have not learned a single thing in life.
Absolutely.
You deserve to be where you're at in 10 years.
That's right.
But if you've taken everything that you've learned, the bad, the good, and the great, in the last 5, 10, you are going to achieve massive results in the next 5 or 10.
I highly agree with that, brother. I think You just spoke the truth, man. That's what it is. I'll give you an example to relate it to your comment right now. In 2017, when Hurricane Harvey came to Houston, were you here already?
Was I? I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in Pearland.
So you
Holy
know,
crap, yeah.
freaking floods everywhere. The city's in chaos. At that point, I had 47 rehabs. So I was flipping 47 houses around town.
Jeez.
Now I had about 50 guys that worked for me directly, and they worked on my rehab. So they were the ones that were fixing up all these houses. So 5 more rentals at the time flooded. So I pulled these guys to fix the rentals because we needed to get the tenants back in, and that cost us a pretty penny. But it didn't break us. Like the flood itself didn't really kill us. What killed us was a month after Harvey. Now there's 300,000 homes flooded.
Oh yeah.
And all these workers now are worth thousands of dollars a day because you just don't have enough people to go cure all these properties. So my crew walked away overnight.
Oh my gosh.
And that's when I found myself with my pants down because I'm like, all right, I got about $250,000 a month on interest payments on all these projects. I don't have people to finish them. I have money, but that money's gonna run out, bro. Like at some point, I don't care how much money you got, but if you got a big hole on the ship and the water is taking in, that ship is gonna sink. And I was a slow sinking ship for about 3 years.
Holy moly.
From 2017 to 2020, I was just trying to do whatever to patch that hole, and it was almost impossible. So I was able to satisfy most of those problems that or the loans that we had. But like you said, I had to change and do something different because, okay, if I went back to the same business model, what if another Harvey comes in, right? Or maybe it's not a Harvey, but an earthquake, or maybe a COVID, or something crazy that takes longer time to recover. And I was like, I was making money, but it was on high liability.
Yeah.
And I was working for my lenders, so I wasn't really free. And I quickly realized I was working for my lenders once I was about to start defaulting on these payments.
Yeah.
Because now they're like, hey, son, they don't talk to you the same way. They're like, hey.
Now they're a creditor.
Now they're creditors. So now they're like, hey, you gotta pay me now, and blah blah blah. And if you don't finish the property, I'm gonna sue you. And then, anyhow, I got into lawsuits and all that stuff. But I had to pivot because it would have been insane for me to continue to do the same thing I was doing. I just didn't know what that was. But that to me was wholesaling. And then we started wholesaling, and after we started wholesaling, I've always been pro being fully integrated.
Yeah.
Like I like to own my systems, not because I'm a control freak. No, it's because my process goes quicker when I own the systems if they're good.
Yeah.
So I started building the texting platform and the data side and all that stuff, and to supply our own demand pretty much because I wanted to grow. I needed to scale a wholesale operation to get rid of that flipping operation.
Yeah, I get that.
You see, I had to start making $250 a month to pay the loans. That wasn't to get rich, bro.
Yeah.
That was just to pay the loans, right? So I was like, man, and believe it or not, for many months we did it. We didn't get there. Like maybe we made $100,000 a month, and we're like, fuck yeah, like you're right. But okay, how can we get to 200? You know, and long story short, Frank, I was forced to pivot, but I've always found myself in that position, so I don't suffer from analysis paralysis or whatever. I just, let's go, man, let's take over. And today, the future is brighter because we have a 7-figure wholesale operation, which is probably going to get to 8 figures because of the size of the team we have now.
Nice, yeah.
We're going to get the texting platform, which is something I want to talk to you offline when we get done.
Yeah.
And then we have the VA company that's also created a whole stream of income that I had no idea was sitting around under my nose. And like you said, you're 38, you're going to 45, and 45 you just want to travel and see the world or whatnot.
Yep.
Maybe retire your wife also. Who knows, right?
Definitely down
And I could tell you when I was 30, I'm 44 now. When I was 37, 38, is when I was going through all of that. At that time, I was making like $500,000 a month.
Feeling good.
Oh, dude, I was rich.
You're feeling real good.
I was rich. We were looking at Lambos and Ferraris, the whole 9 yards, right?
Good stuff, yeah.
But now, we surpassed a lot of those numbers, but now this time I'm free, because we build an infrastructure that runs. It still needs my attention, so I'm not a full-time chairman. I'm in transition in between CEO and chairman.
Yeah.
Right? And I may be in that limbo for a little while, maybe for a couple of years, I don't know. However long it takes, I'm okay, because the foundation is solid. So I just wanted to hear that from you, like, what's your goal? Because if your goal is to be free and travel and see the world and be with your wife and kids,
Yeah.
why are you gonna go build a monster that, like our friend Zach Childress, right?
Yeah.
He built a monster.
He built a monster, and then he realized, I don't want that, right? And he figured out a way to
After it was built.
After it was built.
Yep.
And we did this exercise in these groups called the burn it down. It's like, if you could burn everything down again, like, how would you want your tomorrow to look like, right? Like, and don't put any type of, no. What does your tomorrow want to look like? If you could dare to dream,
Yeah.
you know? And you very quickly realize, as you hang out with a lot of people with a lot of money, you hear it all the time, some people, the richest people, are miserable or whatever, My end goal after, when I'm done with this, is like, I want a peace of mind. I just want a peace of mind. I have peace of mind that my kids are good, my family's good, my parents are good, everybody's good in my life, health is good. That's what's important. Job is going to bring stress. Things are going to cause problems in your life.
Yes.
But put the value on what gives you peace of mind, whether that's financial, your kids are okay, whatever that is. Focus on that. Because I think a lot of unhappiness comes from, this person has more money than me, or this person drives a nicer car than I do.
Measure yourself against others. That's the worst thing we can do.
It's the worst thing you can do. I say, but model the life that you want after people you are inspired by. I think that's okay. Don't be envious. Right?
No.
Don't be envious, but model your life and then pursue it relentlessly. It doesn't take you 20 years to accomplish what we've seen. It could really, with a good idea and good hard work, 3 to 5 years.
It's like the bamboo, right? The bamboo takes about 5 years to lay down its roots. But then on year number 5, you just shoot up 30 feet up in the air, right? You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's how the bamboo grows. Bamboo grows down first. For 5 years, it just sets roots, but it goes way down. And then on year number 5, pow, it goes up completely directly. So I'm in that stage right now on the bamboo, because I've been building this wholesaling operation for a little while.
Yeah.
Build a team, rebuild a team. Build a team, rebuild a team. Get rid of it. And at some point I was like, man. And by the way, I got all these holes that I got to cover from my flipping business. I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I can make money. I'm good at making money.
Right.
Just like you said, right? You're good at making money. But eventually, like, how much is it needed for me to continue to produce that money? Like, because you start getting tired.
Yeah, man. And I'm going to do a quick shameless plug for you, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to do a shameless plug here. And this is kind of like how I do my consulting calls with my clients. So, how I would position your coaching, or like what you've accomplished and what you offer to people.
Yeah.
If anybody's listening to this, which camera can I look at? This one? This one?
Anyone.
I'm looking at this
3
one.
of them.
If you're looking for a coach right now, right, you're going to be a lot of people. You got a lot of jokers coming to our space now. Hey, I flipped about 4 or 5 houses. I'm a rock star, whatever. Imagine getting behind somebody who has survived Harvey, who has gone through, 2 iterations of his business, who manages a team of 80 people, who has survived COVID and thrived during that time, and understands how to create processes and systems that allow you to grow your business, whether it's with one employee or by yourself, with as least mistakes as possible. This guy has literally built a big business after 5 years. If you asked him if you could restart again, would it take you another 5 years to do what you've done? How long do you think it would take you?
It will take me just a few months.
A few months. So when you charge people, like, what do you say you charge people? 15 grand?
I charge, the way I coach, I do $15K for 3 months. That's it. Because it's one-on-one. So I can't take 20 students, because otherwise I don't have the time. I can take maybe 10 students at a time. And we meet 1 hour a week, but in that 1 hour, we build a completely rock-solid foundation for them to take off. So all my students are at different levels. For the most part, the guys that I attract are guys that are already doing deals. Like the guy you met before that was here.
Yeah.
Like he's already in there. I don't have to explain to him 70% maintenance repairs, right? Like he's already there.
Yeah.
Now he's like, hey, what's my next step? Do I hire a closer? Do I train? So those are my avatars. But I also attract newbies, where I gotta take them from. Those are actually easier to train because these guys don't have any preconceived notions.
Yeah.
And I can tell them the game. Hey, this is the game. This is how you choose a market. This is what the texting platform you use. This is the data. This is how you do it. Boom, boom, boom. Now, if they don't convert leads, it's because they gotta work on their conversion skills. But that's okay. I can refer them to my friend Max Jimenez, who's a trainer, or some of the other guys that we have in our space, right? So yeah, it would just take me months because it's once you build it, once that blueprint is there, you just gotta go rebuild it, and if you have the financial means, it might be even quicker.
And that's it. At the end of the day, is when people invest with you. I can't even say buy, or it's literally investing in you. You're really investing in that peace of mind, knowing that Ricardo, if I have any possible problem under the sun, for a person who's new to this, it's incredibly priceless to be able to just reach out to someone and say, do this, and more than likely this is what's going to happen because this is what I'm doing in my business.
Man, I appreciate that.
So, guys, if you're looking for a coach, look for Ricardo. Like this guy has gone through the trenches. Especially if you're here in the Houston market, this guy knows how to take care of people. You have a great reputation.
Thank you.
You're like a hidden giant in our market because people say, oh yeah, he's doing like 30, 40 deals, a month. And I'm like, Ricardo? So keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep your head down because you don't need to brag or speak high.
No,
people are doing it for you, man.
We don't brag about that. To me, that's
know.
Yeah, to me, it's just business. That's what we built. And I remember, Frank, when I had my first 10 houses under contract, I felt filthy rich. Like I was like, wow, I got $100,000 on the contract because at the time it was like 10K an assignment. I was like, dude, I got 10 houses, and that's when my head was about to blow up because I was like, what if I can do this every month? Then it goes from the month to the week. Okay, how can it close on 10 a week? Right now our goal is to close on 5 every week. Five closings every week.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have more, sometimes we have less. So we're finding that consistency. But we got everything in place to where next year, if we don't hit 8 figures on that, and I'm not shooting for 8 figures. If you actually look at my Vision Traction Organizer, it's nowhere close to that. But because I know the monstrosity that we put together already is there, it just makes sense to turn up the dial a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
You built the systems, man.
It's already built in there. So, brother, thank you so much for coming in today, man. I'm looking forward to work with you now, and let's go build some stuff together, guys. Reach out to Frank. He's on. Where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, man. My business is called theaffiliateincubator.com. Follow us on socials. We have a podcast. We also talk about and give out free tips on just how to get started in this business, the things to do, the things to avoid. But yeah, check me out. We're releasing content pretty much weekly now. I got a social media team, so we're trying to get as much stuff out there and get our message out there to grow the brand. So check us out. Thank you, guys.
Amazing. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Attend Growth 2023, February 2, 3, and 4th. Get your tickets right now, guys. It's $797. I'm going to give you 1 month of Prospector Web, which is our texting platform, free with the purchase of our VIP ticket. So those are going up to $997 next month. I'm looking forward to see you there. Bye. Bienvenidos al Real Estate Entrepreneurs Podcast. Hoy día tengo a mi amigo Rey Nevares, de aquí de Houston, Texas.
Sí, gracias, Ricardo. Este es mi primer podcast.
Rey, creciste ahí en Magnolia Park, ¿hasta qué edad?
Estuve ahí
¿terminaste high school? ¿O?
Sí, ahí es donde terminé la high school y yo es medio curiosa la historia de que yo cuando tenía 18 años empecé a trabajarle a un evaluador de casas, un appraiser.